Hi, this little video is introducing Quadra, which is a work estimating tool that integrates with Signature and Microsoft GP. We were asked to take a look at these different scenarios as it relates to the three processes from dynacorp that Calvin Associates were asked to take a look at. So what I'm going to show you is really the first two processes in creating an estimate and also in creating a copy of an estimate that could then be added to inventory as opposed to being used for a customer job. So Quadra, as we go through this, you'll see has really two key features. Quadra does both the estimating piece, the job creation piece, fully integrated with Signature, but it also manages a lot of the purchasing elements within Signature and GP to streamline the purchasing process, selecting vendors, seeing which vendors have the best pricing, etc. So what I was given was a couple of images that you can see have gone past. I unfortunately wasn't able to see them clearly, so I had to make up my own parts, inventory parts, etc. But I think conceptually, you'll get the idea of what we're trying to do. Quadra is much like a CRM tool for many components, whereby you can create your requests, track your requests, track the status of all those requests, and once they're approved by the customer, you can then automatically create them inside Signature and GP. Now, Quadra is a web-based tool that requires no software to be installed for the client to use. It's got much of the same functionality that any browser-based system would have. In this scenario here, what I'm going to be doing is creating a job by copying another job, but I'm going to show you at the same time how you can also manually add items that you want to the estimate. So I've gone through and selected a division, and then I've picked a template. I'm giving this job a name. I can then pick a customer, but a lot of times these customers won't exist. If it's a new one, won't exist inside of GP, and that's usually something that's left for the finance folks to do. So if that's the case, then I'll just use I can select my name if I have it. Otherwise, what we do is we add a name called TBD, and we simply then can go through, add an address for TBD. We can put the information in for the customer name, and then that could be updated in GP later on. So what I've done is I've quickly created that request using all the information from GP and Signature. It's created the request inside of Quadra now. And now I can start going through and tracking this job, and I can also start going through and building out my estimate. So I can go through and add items. I can add items one at a time. So I can pick from an assembly, and I've got lists of assemblies, and you can see all the details on the assembly, inventory items, equipment, labor. I could go through and pick an individual inventory item. This would be coming straight from GP's inventory. So I can just pick the items. It's pulling all the pricing real time from GP. I could also go through and estimate labor units, which are stored within Quadra. So you would pick the labor units you want, or alternatively, I could pick from a non-stock item that I typically would purchase and put an estimated amount in. In this case, I'm going to pick a previous job just so I can get some information on there. And it's going to copy all the elements of the job. I can even have it go through and update and review costs and pull those in. I could also import CAD files or CSV files if you're given those from a vendor or from a customer to import. And in this case, I'm just going to copy the details that were on that particular job. And it's automatically pulled everything in for me. Now, what I can do as I'm going through is I can see by what I've set up by location, which matches the locations or the ideas that you had provided in terms of a vessel, skid, and piping. I can quickly go through and edit amounts for various items that are on there. I could also edit entire assemblies on there very quickly, or what I could also do is go through and delete items very quickly off of this. So if this is a way for me to quickly adjust from a template, or as I mentioned, you could go through and build this thing out from scratch. What I can look at is once I've got the details sort of flushed out, I can, print off or run a bill of materials list. Then I can go through and start really analyzing what I've got in there in terms of stock items, non-stock items, stuff that I've got to order, labor components, third-party components, vehicle components, whatever you've added to the estimate, you can narrow down, and I can sort of refine my searches and pull up the information that I want. Can also dump this out to Excel if I want to do a little bit more evaluation or assessment on this information. Quadra also has a rich project sort of tracking functionality whereby I can go through and have workflows set up so that I can determine, what's the next step. In this case, is it a job that's greater than 25,000 or less than 25,000? Who would have to approve it? I can add files. I can add comments. So these could be CAD files. They could be pictures. They could be drawings. Anything you need to track and associate against a particular job, you can store there. It's got due dates, prerequisites, so I can be alerted when tasks are completed or not completed. And I can assign these to various individuals as well, so that it allows me to sort of stay on top of various projects. So very similar to what you would have in Microsoft Project, very, very restricted functionality, but very specific to the functionality that's typically required. Once I've got everything to the point that I like, I can quickly go through and create a quote. These quotes are pretty versatile. You could have a very complex set of quotes that you wanted to do, but we break it down into 5 different sections, and you can sort of see how I'm just selecting the different components and pulling through the details from the system. I could go into these boxes and actually update using the same tools that you'd have in Word. I can highlight things, I can bold things, I can do whatever I want, update information. Pretty versatile. The nice thing about these tools is, I've gone through and I can quickly create a quote, or I'm going to break it out into different sections here. You can see there's a simple, basic address. And there's an introduction. This would be a very complex, almost like a contract type of introduction, or I could have something that was, just a simple 2-page quote. I can pick how I want my detail items to be sorted, listed. This case is by material, labor, trucks, overall summary, or I could just have one line if I wanted to that said the job cost. And there's a signature page, and I save that, and boom, there's my quote that's quickly been created. And once I'm happy with that, the customer signs off. I go back into my job, and you can see that I've got a request, but I don't have a job number yet in Wensoft. I can see the bid pricing that I've got on there so far. So what I'm going to do now is simply just approve this event, and this is going to push all of the details into signature and GP. And now I've got my job created. I can see my estimated costs. I can see my job number. That's the same job number that's going to be inside of signature. And I'm just going to go over to signature and pull up that job now. Okay, and there it is. I didn't have to key anything in to get that. And I can go through there, all my cost codes broken down. So all the estimates are in there by cost code. And I can see the cost codes that were automatically created on that based on the template that I selected for that particular job in that particular division. Once the job's been approved, I can now take all the rich data that was on that estimate, and I can now start creating my POs. And there's a ton of functionality in here around creating POs, or you could create sales order transactions as well, or you could create both. In this case, I'm just sort of looking at the different elements of my estimate. I could just pick the vessel pieces, I could just pick the skid pieces, the piping pieces, etc. I can see how much needs to be ordered. I could adjust the amounts that I'm going to order, or in this case, I could identify which elements I want to create purchase orders from. And again, I can pick and choose what I want to do here. But once I've sort of got the ones I want to look at, I've got a compare feature. And what this compare feature does is it looks at the various vendors that I've purchased from previously and lets me just compare what the last price was that I got from that particular vendor. And I can go through and see here now, and I can select the various elements, look and do a quick comparison. I could select everything from one vendor, and I can see what the costs, the subtotals are at the bottom. That's what my cost would be, or I can just skim through and look for the lowest price, or maybe there's a vendor that you don't like working with, or one you do prefer to work with, even though they're a little more money, you might purchase from them because you're going to get everything from one vendor. All these purchasing decisions really are up to you, and the nice part is it's sort of giving you that comparison in real time direct from GP. Or you could always manually just go in and override the pricing, override the quantities based on what your purchasing policies are. And once I'm happy with things, I can just tweak and adjust. Could have updated quantities that I want to order and hit a button and automatically have it create my POs for me. So what's done is it's gone in and I've got multiple POs that it's created. I just jump into Signature and GP and I look at that PO, and there they all are. This is this one purchase order, and I can see the job number that it was assigned to, so I can track automatically against this particular job all the costs that are going to be coming in that need to be purchased. So that's a very quick and high-level overview of what Quadra is capable of doing and how it integrates with Signature and with GP. We're happy to provide a much more detailed and in-depth presentation at your convenience. Thank you very much.